All right. July 31st, 2023, 7 months into the year. It's your guys, Bags, GP, JFDI. July 31st, 2023, and I've got 7 feedback. What's going on with it? All right, it's off. Yeah, no, we're good now. What's going on, Nick? What's going on? Go to him.
Dude, I mean, oh, I don't know. I didn't know. It's still part of your intro.
Yeah, no. We had some feedback from YouTube, and sometimes things happen on live broadcast, but we're going. We're going now. We're live.
Yeah, we're live. Yeah, I mean, market's freaking great. I mean, indexes look like they're kind of pushing into an area where I think we might see a little bit more, a little longer rest period, I guess. Like as we kind of push into all-time highs, like test kind of all-time highs at least. I would imagine we see some selling or whatever, but there's so much stuff that looks good. I mean, you should either be in trades or in positions or stalking aggressively, I think.
What if this month looks exactly like NVIDIA did in May on the Q?
Doing nothing but going wild. Just wild times. For reference.
Yeah, I mean, do you see something like that? Do you see something like that happening?
So you have we're 25 points from all-time highs in the Qs.
Mm-hmm.
You have, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but you have Apple, Amazon, and who else is reporting this week?
Yeah, for sure. Apple, Amazon,
AMD tomorrow.
Yeah. So you have AMD, which will automatically, if they do well, NVIDIA will start to respond. Which NVIDIA, as much as you'd like to hate it, has been just consolidating.
Yeah, right.
And so what you'll have to watch is the monthly high, which is 480.88. We start to take that out. If you look at NVIDIA, last 2 weeks have been essentially kind of like in the upper part of that wick. So
yeah,
it looks like it's consolidating for another push, like an ascending triangle or whatever you want to call it. And AMD confirms it, then NVIDIA goes with it. And now if you have NVIDIA breaking out, this is the third or fourth consolidation after that May earnings breakout. Is all you have to do is AMD comes in and guides much higher like NVIDIA did in May, and NVIDIA goes nuts.
Yeah.
And if Apple does well because their services revenue or whatever they're doing or whatever it is, and the response is really well, and then you have Amazon, which honestly should be crushing it. They were ahead of the curve in reducing costs way before a lot of these things were happening. So it's been consolidating. It finally, back-to-back months, Amazon reclaimed the 50-month moving average, which in the first time in its, I think probably in the last 15 or 20 years, it hasn't spent much time like back in 02, 03, it was under there and kind of gyrated around there for another couple of years, another 3 years. But you have last month where it reclaimed the 50-month moving average, and this month as a follow-through stayed above, the entire body pretty much stayed above the 50-month moving average, which is that 130 level. So if earnings are good for Amazon here, you have the potential to break out. So if you have Amazon, you have Apple, and you have NVIDIA with AMD start to break higher, this market is yeah, it's got a lot of heat still left. But now if those don't, you also have the downside, right? So
yeah.
And Amazon is just getting its monthly MACD cross here and kind of confirmation. I believe Apple has its monthly MACD cross already, but it's just starting to expand out. And if you add in Tesla to this conversation, which is now just on the verge of potentially, maybe, possibly doing that MACD cross, you have a lot more ammunition here to me, and you
Yeah,
could
don't fuck us in
potentially
the nth
see-
hour here,
What's
Tesla.
that?
I said, don't fuck us in the nth hour here, Tesla.
Yeah, and dude, based on how much volume has come in at the lows here after
Yeah,
a
I know.
beatdown of 75 or 80%, it's most likely not going to, right? Like there hasn't been, there's been some kind of distribution candles, but there's been a lot, like an insane amount of reaccumulation here. So,
Well, this is the second week post Tesla earnings, and I go back to what we said on the what GP said on the show when we were coming into earnings, is that don't expect a big earnings move. It'll happen somewhat later, meaning weeks later. And I'm not saying Tesla goes crazy this week, but piggybacking off of our NVIDIA conversation and Elon saying that he'd buy all the NVIDIA chips. Again, depending on what Lisa Su says tomorrow night, I mean, it could go either way, right? There could be fireworks or we could see a dud. And I think that would be good for Tesla stock if there were fireworks. I think that would be good for tech in general if there are fireworks. So it's kind of exciting to really line up this week. We've got all kinds of economic data this week. We've got, the earnings of Apple and Amazon and the other names that we've already mentioned. So like it's kind of an exciting week. I'm not gonna lie.
and right, so if you're looking at AMD and you're looking at NVIDIA, what you should also be looking at is what SMH is already doing, right? Which is taking
All-time
out
high.
Yeah.
all-time high, monthly near the highs, pushing higher. Volume is not as great, but you're getting the MACD cross, and that's confirming. So if SMH is breaking out, the components of SMH should start to break out here, right? Yeah, it's just a lot of stuff that says, we've been talking about this. I think I've been talking about it since the beginning of the year. The bricks of the building have been laid and be continued to be laid on every moment, right? Every moment so far as we've been attempting to break down, we see people stepping in and purchasing. And now what are you starting to see? The ancillary benefits, right? And we were just, as we started talking about this right before we started the live podcast, is what just happened in the last 2 days. Look at Roku, right? Roku is now starting to perk up. Square is starting to perk up. Now you're starting to see breadth expansion in the higher growth tech names that you weren't seeing before, right? They're starting to move out of their bases. Will all of them continue to rise in equal fashions? No. The earnings will have to show that they're heading in the right direction. This is still, fundamentals still matter, obviously, but the charts have been telling you that the fundamentals will start catching up. And I think that's what you're starting to see now.
Not to change topics, but Make the Time in our chat says, when does Sir Pisa cover his XLE short? Squeeze him.
So I had a short on. I had made a decent amount of money and I had some runners and they expired. So I'm waiting for another opportunity to short. We've talked about this numerous times. There's so many better plays out there, right?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
At key given moments, I'll take a shot on it, but I'm not focused on shorting XLE when the entire stock market, for the most part, is showing you better setups, right? Just for me, it's distribution, and I find it odd that after being so strong that it today stops 1 penny shy of the levels that you were talking about, Bags, right? 87.74. What did we hit today?
Yep. Right
87.73.
Well, I said last week, right, that the pivot was 75 or 87, and it's sitting there at 87.48 right now. And that's a weekly close above 87. I would consider that favoring the bulls. Under would be favoring the bears.
Not on a Monday though.
No, not on a Monday. I said at a weekly close.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm not I flash back and forth, but I went through all the monthly charts earlier, and I mean the monthly chart doesn't look bad, but again, we're in the middle of a week and we're going to see how all that plays out. Right here would be the point that if it were to fail, it would fail. As I look at the RSI, right, it's breaking out, but it's not dramatically parabolic. So that's not a bad thing. So we'll see. But don't think I'm not watching to potentially look at buying some puts on the XLE if I see that breakdown below the 87 level. I think the more important thing from my perspective, and not just the XLE conversation that we're having right now, but some of these other names we're talking about, is not to not to extend your stay, not to stay too long on some of these trades. And specifically, if you're trying to the short side or buying puts. I mean, I worked out another nice day trade this morning on QQQ puts off, the first 15 minutes. But this is not something I'm just going to let it ride to the expiration or, have a month, 2 months, 6 months out at this point. So I think overstaying one's welcome can be a dangerous path with all these economic news pieces, with all these earnings pieces that'll be coming out the rest of this week. I just think it can be a really tough thing to trade if you overstay.
Yeah, and reality is ExxonMobil is still under its 200-day moving average. Maybe that changes tomorrow. I believe Chevron is still under its 200-day moving average. Both of those make up like 47% of the XLE, by the way. So my conversation is, if you want to be long energy, it's not a trade I really align with.
What?
It still has been and will be OIH. Look, we talked about this at the beginning of the year. SLB, RIG. Look at what these names are doing. Versus,
yeah, it's a pretty decent breakouts today. Volume wasn't there, but
right. But look at the components underneath, right? Look at SLB. Yeah. Look at RIG. RIG is breaking out of multi-year kind of like consolidation, right? Like if you go back to a monthly on RIG, it looks phenomenal.
I went through.
Look at the accumulation. Look at the base that's formed. Look at how it's pushing higher here, right? This is like, if you're going to be long energy, we've talked about this so many times
at length. Yeah, I went through like the top 15 holdings in the OIH.
Yeah, I
was really trying to find things to nitpick about and to be like bearish about, and it was really, really hard. It was really difficult to come up with a bearish thesis on most of the top holdings in OIH.
Yeah.
So I think I made this statement on January 17th on OIH versus XLE, right? If you want to be long energy, I think you're long OIH names. And January 17th, OIH was, I don't know, what was it? I can look it up. Hold on. On January 17th, OIH was 226.
I mean,
somewhere around there.
Baker Hughes in there, right? Like Baker Hughes, like this is a breakout that's just starting in the OIH, right? Like this is, you've got what's something else in there? Valaris, I think it's VAL, another name, just ripping, just like going. Noble is in there. Look at that chart. Like you can say like, okay, Bags, it's, you know, it's getting overbought. Sure, but overbought can stay overbought and oversold can stay oversold. Then my point is, I think you can trade a lot of these names, or one can trade a lot of these names. But understand if it's a trade or if it's an investment. I know when I'm trying to buy and get long stocks, I'm usually not buying up here, but this can be a good area to trade oftentimes.
I think Halliburton and SLB are like set to go. I mean, they started to break out. Those are the two that I was watching today.
Yeah, well, I mean, just incredible moves off the base.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, we talk, we kid and we talk enough about XLE and OIH.
Yeah.
You know, we've already ran down some of the big cap names that are reporting, but I mean, we haven't really focused on Apple a lot lately. Obviously, Apple's the largest, it's the daddy of the market. It reports Thursday. Had this range box here for months, years, basically. And wouldn't you know it? I mean, that's follow through that you want to see from June to July. So I don't know what to expect from Apple earnings, but Apple has just crushed since the beginning of the year.
Ever.
Right? Like when the biggest stock in the market has that kind of move from bottom to top, I mean, we're talking 58% basically. What are you guys expecting from Apple? Anything, everything, nothing?
I think what it's been doing, which is grind, right?
Yeah, it's kind of. I wouldn't be surprised to see a shakedown to the 50. I'd anticipate it getting bought up. I don't know.
And the 50 is not like far off, right? The 50
No.
is at 185. So
Yeah,
we're back to where it was 2 months ago. Like it's really not a big deal. They're yeah, like Apple's not a stock I can trade because it grinds. It's small moves, and when you're an options trader, small moves are just not fun, right? You have to be quick. You're looking for like the bigger anticipated move, but at a $3 trillion valuation or whatever it's at right now, it's just not worth my time in terms of trades. But if you're looking at it like an overall kind of market leader, it's doing well. Look at so I think it behaves very similar to Microsoft, right? Kind of a breakdown, not really. I want to sell it because it's done so well, but I really don't because it's done so well. I think that's the mentality of these so far.
Well, can we look at what happened last week between Microsoft and Google? Can we take a comparison of what might happen this week with Apple and Amazon? To a large degree, Google and Amazon are similar, while Microsoft and Apple have just absolutely crushed all year. Not that Amazon and Google did poorly, but lagged to some extent Microsoft and Apple. You think there's some correlation there or no?
Nick, you can go.
Google. Yeah, probably. I kind of like. I would have rather seen. Like I like the setup in Microsoft. Like I like the highs getting kind of tested and then just seeing some sideways action up here before we kind of rip higher. Like for Apple, what was it? What did you say? Apple. I'm sorry.
Amazon.
Oh, Google and Amazon. Google and Amazon, I think we're just more tired in terms of like, in terms of correlation, if that's what you're.
Well, Google had
Like
a nice reaction post earnings. Microsoft got faded, right? And
sure.
because Microsoft ran all the way up, Google kind of walked up. And that's what kind of, I think what we're seeing. Similarly, Apple has run,
Yeah.
Microsoft has walked. Do we see sort of the same post earnings reaction?
In Amazon?
Yeah, Amazon would be the equivalent to Google, and Apple would be the equivalent to Microsoft in my thesis.
You have a
I wouldn't be
3-week
surprised
tight
to see
right
it.
under the 50-week moving average, by the way, for Amazon.
Amazon, I could see it push into like the mid 140s and it finding a lot of trouble right there. It's just kind of my, I think that will,
I think everybody's looking at that, right? Like
Yeah,
that mid
right.
140s area for Amazon.
yeah, like the
So
upside's
from
not
here-
like from a trader or the upside's, I think, a little limited in Amazon currently.
basically Google had a 6% pop. That would be up to 145 would be like an 8% pop for Amazon.
I mean, Google was already just from chart wise. Amazon, I think, looks the shittiest of all of them, just based on basically a whole year. What was that? You know,
Amazon definitely
2020
looks weaker,
through.
right? Like there's no doubt.
Yeah, just the overall setup. I think is I don't like it as
Let's
much.
chat Friday.
With Amazon.
Coming from Mr. Dead Money on Google and Amazon.
Yo, the reverse psych worked.
I
didn't it?
know it was a reverse jinx. I know.
Right, but reality is Amazon actually looks the strongest in this point. It's not in a parabolic move like Apple and Microsoft. It's been consolidating. It tagged the 50-week moving average, which is also rising, by the way. It's not declining. You have the 200-week, which is flat here. So you have a 3-week tight in Amazon that is sitting at a pretty kind of like it's kind of the base of like the 2020 to 2022, right? That kind of base. So earnings comes out, which I think will be pretty positive. I think they'll be really good. I don't know how Sassy Jassy will sound because so far he's been unimpressive for the most part. But chart says that it probably takes out that 146 and it heads to 158.
160.
Sassy Jassy.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably
I don't
it's
think that
probably
point's gonna
heading
matter
to the
here, right?
high of the what is that? The May of 2020, January, February, March, the April 2022 candle. Yeah, so 168, 169. Oh, you said 158.
Honestly, I don't think it gets as high as 168 because that's the top of the range, but I can see up to
Sure.
like 154, 158. I don't think that 146 area is as important as people want it to be. There's just not enough supply zone. There's not enough volume there. So I think it busts through that with good earnings and probably tags at 154 zone, maybe 150, a little bit higher than the 146.
Yeah,
right?
the volume shelf starts kicking in around 154 up to 159 there.
So I think that's where you start to see the people who've been all trapped being like, all right, I'm back to break even. I'm going to now sell and wait to see what happens.
So 20% gain off earnings. I love it, GP.
Right. So like very similar to if you're looking at it, pull up Palantir, it's a very similar looking chart. It got to that level where it broke down, which is right around 17, 18. And then it went sideways for 6 or 7 weeks or whatever it was. This is while everyone's kind of like, oh, I'm finally break even because it's down 50%, but then it dropped another 50% or whatever it was. I don't know the exact percentages, I make them up, but basically clearing out the riffraff, and then all those guys who sold at 16, 17 after being break even or slightly up are now gonna kick themselves for the next year or 6 months or whatever it is while Palantir goes back to 25, 30, right? It's like, oh man, I shouldn't have sold.
Hey, Nick, question for you.
Yeah.
We talked about trading strategies the other day.
Yeah.
GP brought up something that I've been meaning to ask you. When you're on the losing side of a trade and you get back to the break even, is that the time to sell?
Probably not likely.
Go complete that a little further. Go into that a little bit deeper.
Likely you're coming at the trade from like an emotionally charged place. So like in reality, you probably should be buying more at that break-even point. From a trader's point of view, though, I mean, like how long are you in this? How long have you been in this trade?
Well, I
Because
don't know. Well, I mean, let's just say
Yeah.
Amazon, right? That's what we're talking about. Let's say you were in an Amazon up here in the 160s, 70s,
yeah,
and now you're coming back to break even or closer to break even.
Let's
Yeah,
expand it a little bit further. There's a binary event that could potentially drop it 20% too, right back to the weekly 200 day, which is at 108
Yeah.
or whatever it is, whatever.
in terms of like, in looking at support and resistance, I think looking at resistance levels, like we are going to meet a lot of sellers, kind of as we are climbing these walls out of here. But at the same time, I mean, 2022 is pretty gnarly. I think there've been so many people that have been blown out. I can't imagine there being too many sellers waiting to sell Amazon. I mean, I see the volume bars, and I see the where we'll likely find some resistance, but I think that the most of the sellers have been completely blown out.
So using Amazon as our hypothetical, if you
Yeah,
were back to break even,
if
on
you're back to break
Amazon,
even, I mean,
this is not
no, like
financial
dude,
advice. You would not be a seller at break even.
no, definitely not. And I think you'd have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I literally held basically dead. I've passed on so many opportunities that I held dead money at, like, literally what you caught, you recouped a trade from 100 up to, let's just say, what, 160. How many trades, how many other things did you pass on because you held on to that? I certainly would not be a seller. I guess maybe that's ego in the opposite way, maybe but I'd be like, dude, no, I'm not selling it.
So
After
now,
holding through that.
GP, play devil's advocate a little bit. You brought up earnings, right? Something that could knock the stock back down to this 100, 105, 106 area down here, right? What would you do, GP? Would you be a seller at the break even? Would you add more if it fell down 20% into the 107, 105 area? What would you do, GP?
So I would be a seller of some. Let's say I started buying at I don't know, 130, right? Let's say that's where, so my average is like 135, right? Because you'll see that on the chart. We had some wicks in this area and pushed up, and then ultimately the bottom that was trying to hold there broke, right? And then we came back and retested, and now we're back at that retest point. So if I was in Amazon here and my break even is like 134, 135, and I'm kind of sitting on the precipice of basically having to eat it for like another 6 months or whatever because it has bad earnings, I would potentially be taking some off here, that if it does come back to those levels, you have some ammo to fire, right? But I wouldn't be selling the whole position here.
So you'd sell a little bit ahead of earnings
if I was inclined to, but I would not be inclined to sell this chart at this point.
Well, this is just hypothetical. We're not saying anyone's taking action. I was setting up the hypothetical, right? That somebody's in the 160s, 170s. Maybe they bought some lower.
So it's literally flagging under the rising 200-week moving average. I wouldn't be selling it, right? That's just me. So It's a 3-week tight under the 200-week moving average. It's flagging. It's a zone that was congestion that already got rejected and wiped out lots of people who are buying kind of in that rounding bottom, that mini rounding bottom. So as long as earnings are good, like if there's something fundamentally wrong on earnings, which I highly doubt for Amazon, I wouldn't be selling it here. That's what I'm saying. I would think about taking profits in some names that I've run already, 100, 200%, and leaving some ammo to buy lower, but making sure that I do have ammo to buy lower, because so far a lot of 2023 has been shakes and then bigs, right? So you have to also look at how the price action has been. In 2022, you asked me this, definitely not, right? You'd be selling at that resistance point.
Very informative discussion. Let's look at some charts.
Sure.
Nick, anything you want to look at? Don't you dare say KLAC or AVGO.
No. There's some other. God, I kind of want to talk about, like, PLTR and the IoT path.
Yeah, let's talk about
because I have them. I don't know. They all look fantastic to me, and they all look like they're coming, like they're already starting their, stage 2 breakout.
Palantir, SoFi went crazy today.
Yeah, SoFi. Yeah, right. Oh man, I didn't see how SoFi closed. That's a good looking bar.
Yeah, almost at the highs, 19.9% on the day.
Yeah,
SoFi very similar to Palantir, right? It got to the point where it broke down and has gone sideways for a year and a half, and it found a bunch of sellers, and now everyone who sold there is like, oh crap, it's breaking out. And now you kind of have the disbelievers who are gonna watch this now go back to, let's say, 14.15 for SoFi, and then it's going to reject 14.15 and they're going to be pissed. So this is literally the human psychology is playing out in this chart. So
yeah, totally.
In a lot of these charts, honestly. So
the chase is on,
right? And they're going to be like, oh, this stock hates me because I didn't buy it here, or I sold it here, and now it's confirming. And then crap, it's now dropped 20%. And it's funny how all this stuff works. And
what was another name that you liked, Nick?
Well, you went 3-week tight here,
tight.
And then Path is also kind of set up to go here. Also went 3-week tight last week. Both of them look just coiled and like, I don't know, ready to go.
Yeah, I think you looks more coiled and ready to go than Path is. I think Path still has some work to do.
I agree.
But yeah, a lot of these are starting to look like the accumulation is done, and they're starting to move out of their either stage 1 bases or their stage 2 breakouts, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, well, yeah, totally. Everyone's got their.
My favorite little darling, Sentinel-1, letter S. It had a good day today too. Most of the cybersecurity did.
Look at Shop.
Yeah, Shop looks amazing.
Look at this. It has, if you go to the weekly on this, it's basically since last earnings has pretty much gone sideways, but above the entire earnings bar, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is starting to look good, and you see the accumulation in the base, and now the earnings need to prove it, and last earnings already proved it, so now it needs to confirm it. So Shop is potentially on the verge of a stage 2 breakout here, right? And
similar setup as Marvell.
Exactly.
Didn't quite hold the whole earnings gap up, but it didn't drop below.
No, but it's above the 50% retrace of the earnings gap, right?
Yep.
And if you're looking at the daily, that's clear. How clear is that?
Yeah.
Like I'm looking at that chart, I'm like, that looks like a mini cup and handle here, right? Like it's basically just, and it's on low volume, the pullbacks here. It's consolidating now in the top part of that earnings bar, and any piece of good news, economic data, this starts to move out, right? Maybe it's AMD that gets us going.
Yeah, it doesn't have earnings for 24 more days, but again, AMD tomorrow, as we spoke of, that could
How does AMD look? I haven't looked at that chart.
that could free a lot of things.
How does AMD look? It looks like the same box of crap.
Well, it's holding the 9 weekly. It's been holding that forever. It's just stayed tight. It's basically been tight since mid-June.
Yeah, and back-to-back tight months at the top of the range. So you could have inside up, inside whatever. This all looks constructive, right?
Is that a
So
3 type month there, Nick?
not, yeah.
I don't know
yeah.
how that I don't know how that applies on the monthly, but I mean, I would imagine it's still
It's the same.
just showing tight
Wouldn't
price
it be the
action.
same,
Yeah,
just at larger scale?
yeah.
MDB, holy crap, MDB monthly.
Holy moly.
Yeah,
Mm.
like, does that look like something that's about to see SPX 3200? I don't know, you guys be the judge, right? Like that's volume, that's a breakout bar holding the top part of the range tight, daily ascending triangle, weekly just tight and tight and tight. Moving averages starting to curl up. This, so far, the charts that I've looked at, which hasn't been that many over the last few weeks, got some stuff going on, but all of it still looks really constructive. And going into earnings seasons after a massive run up, you should have expected chop. And if you didn't, you should probably think about your trading styles.
What do you think
Yeah.
shop could do? Back to shop.
Sure. Shop on this move, like if you're looking at the weekly, the 200 week moving average is sitting right above it at 79. So out of this, you could potentially see that. The level I've been watching on shop is like the 85 level.
One thing both of you mentioned, I'm asking you both to explain for all of our listeners, is we all know a breakout is when, price or the candle breaks through either the trend line or the range. But what is a phase 2 breakout?
Well, I mean, it's a lot for my, at least I guess more recent reading. It's from like largely Stan Weinstein talking about like the waves of like of a move. So like a stage 2 breakout is when we have a long horizontal base, and stage 2 is when we break above. Like you'd consider stage 1 like a massive horizontal channel, and you'd consider that the base stage 1, and then stage 2 is when that high starts to get taken out. Weinstein states that for it to be considered a stage 1, you have to have the 30 period on the weekly. I'm talking about, you have to have the 30 period moving average. You have to have it flatline as you're getting that horizontal channel, so that when you do start to break out of and go stage 2, you're seeing that 30-week moving average start to curl up. I mean, the 30-week and the 40-week, they're like, it's like the 150-day versus the 200-day. They're basically the same thing. But I mean, in my experience, anytime you have a flatlined 200-day moving average, like it takes a lot to get that thing moving in one direction or the other. So,
So
I
the
think
red line is now the 30-day or 30 week.
period. Yeah, right. So, I would say shop has already gone stage 2. Actually, hold on, let me take that back. Yeah, I would argue that shop went stage 2 when it broke above 55. That's kind of where I would have my channel from, like basically 55 down to, let's just say 30. But yeah, I'm not the best at spotting I find it, I mean, it's obviously easy to kind of spot big sell bars, but the sneakier distribution stuff, I'm not the best at identifying. So I always enjoy hearing GP's take on distribution. But
So
I'm
to
just saying,
me,
because your stage 3 is when you start to see like a large distribution pattern. So, whether like if you go back on the shop weekly, for instance, back into like the fall of 2021 where it, started to fail, you basically saw like an all-time high weekly bar you saw it break out but then fail. It wicked up and then it rolled over. I would, hold on, I'm pulling up my weekly chart just to see. Well, it looks like the volume really didn't pick up on shop. Oh wow. God, the volume really didn't pick up on shop to the downside until that down wave really started getting moving. Either way, stage 3 is when you start to see kind of a distribution happening and kind of a rounding top or top of some sort, and then you start your stage 4 decline. Basically, it's kind of, at least from the Weinstein stuff that I subscribe to.
so I don't know much about stage 1, stage 2 breakouts.
Sure.
I don't really follow that kind of stuff. I know a lot of people do. What I will say is the high of 2020 was 60, and the low post COVID was 30. And for the last, we found one bar where it kind of popped up, but for the last, so that was March 2022, and then for the last, what is it, 16 months, we've been in that range between 50 and 60. Last earnings got us above that 60, so now we're approaching kind of the breakout area, right? And to me, that breakout area, if earnings kind of confirms, is between 85 and 120, right? That's kind of the range where
That's the breakout.
Like, to me, the breakout would be above yeah, like 80 is where the breakout is.
Yep.
Right. So that to me, if you look at it in June of 2020, you kind of had the breakaway gap, not necessarily as clean as I would like to have seen, because I would have liked to seen it kind of gap over 85 and kind of create that gap island. But that's that gap I'm kind of watching, which is like 78 ish to 80, and that's where that had that green kind of, remember that random Friday where it popped to like 78 right at the close. It was like almost a ghost print, but obviously if you look at the bar, it's there, it happened, but it screwed a lot of people's puts or calls or whatever happened. So that 78 level is when I think the breakout actually occurs. 78 to 80, and then after that it's gonna have to grind through lots and lots of stuff. That's the crazy thing about where the volume showed up was where the COVID 2020 lows were happening, right? That range, most of the volume in shop started to flow in green and red after it broke 60 to the downside.
That's what I hadn't really looked. Yeah, I don't know why I hadn't noticed that before.
Right, and that was the weird part about all of 2022. It was not a lot of volume driving the price into the ground, and then it got basically got back to the COVID lows and has pretty much based since then. And the earnings got us back above that COVID high area, the 60, and it's literally 3 months has pretty much gone sideways. So to me, the breakout is 78, 80, and above that, you'll have to see how the price kind of action goes. I would imagine it's going to struggle around 113, somewhere between like 100 and 113.
Well, I'll definitely be selling my shop on a move into 100 for sure.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of stuff that looks kind of ready to move to that. So, but I don't follow the stage 1, stage 2 stuff, so I can't
Sure.
really opine on that.
GP, what's something you've been looking at?
To me, Tesla, right? I'll keep looking at Tesla because there was no confirmation of the earnings sell-off, and kind of posted that over the weekend, and weekend after the earnings, and we had a green week last week, and we're starting to push higher out of here already. We take out last week's high at 270-290, it kind of goes higher. So Tesla obviously looks good. The other one I was looking at was Square, because Square has been perplexing for me because I haven't seen the accumulation volume, but there was a monster capitulation volume to the downside in this range, which I found really weird off that short report, right? So that's starting to look pretty good.
Also earnings this week.
Okay.
Where like that would be
Dash.
like, again kind of another Square. Like Square is another example of like a stock that's been in a base and a range where I wouldn't consider stage 2 technically starting until it breaks through 92. Especially looking at the monthly, but then when you kind of narrow down to the daily and the weekly,
Yeah.
I mean, it's given several entries, both kind of like, that rips the 200 or through the 200-day moving average. It went 3 weeks tight, which that's kind of like another thing with like that nasty bar we had last Thursday. And I really wasn't expecting Friday to kind of be in the way that it happened in the way that it did. But so many charts went 3 weeks tight that like I'm a happy camper. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I just wanted to say that Square was another good example of stock that's in stage 1, where stage 2 would be, ripping above 92.
You've brought
sorry.
SQ up a few times, Nick.
Yeah.
And I know you've liked it for about a month. So
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
you long this name?
Yeah, I am. I've been adding to it a little bit. Added to it a little bit to it today. I don't know if I'm gonna regret that or not, but I'm looking to add to it if we do get that break above 92 at this point. But yeah.
And so like I
I
started looking
only-
at some of the stuff. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I had been watching it. And when there was a while back when I know you had said you really didn't like it, and for whatever reason, I started to like it quite a bit then. But what I couldn't figure out was why I don't think PayPal looks nearly as good as Square.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Either way.
So another one that you were asking about, Bags, Dash.
Dash and Uber. Yeah.
Wow.
There's a lot of accumulation on that chart to me.
Wow. I wasn't expecting to see that. Dash is going hard.
Yeah.
That DDoc. No. Go ahead.
DDoc, right? Like all the Kathy stocks, man. We talked about the Kathy stocks early on. But,
We did, yeah.
but like I don't know why.
Email's got it going on right now.
But we've been talking about it for months. It's like if you're not paying attention, it's time to start paying attention to the Kathy stocks, right?
Meemaw's got it going on. Meemaw Kathy is showing everybody that she's got to come back in her.
Oh, EXAS is setting up again. Damn.
Hey guys, real quick.
Look at Pac B.
Our good friend Pratt wants to know about SHOP. Why sell into 100? Just based off the chart and the potential resistance around 100?
Is he asking me?
He was just asking the question. He's just posing the question, and I wasn't giving commentary, so largely
round number. 32.
So this is like the 100 area right here, Pratt, in the blue box.
I have a measured move, at least drawn. I'd have to kind of look back at how I came up with it, but in the 90s. So there's a real tight range, kind of in the mid 80s. And then 100 is kind of right back where you see we had kind of a major floor way back in 2021 where shop really held there.
Yep.
So
You got some sloppy candles in there around 100.
yeah,
So depends on your time frame, right? So
absolutely.
when I was buying shop in, I think my lowest price was like 30, or 28 or something. It was pretty low, like 30, 31 maybe.
You're not selling at 100. Yeah.
I didn't buy because I wanted to sell at 100, right?
Yeah.
I knew where I was buying, which is this is a stock that I want to be long for the long term. This is an opportunity to get in. Maybe it goes lower, maybe it doesn't, but it's something that I wanted to be in long term. And I was watching as they were, watching last earnings, and I was like, okay, they are now proving, management is proving. It's one of the few still remaining like big names that's run by the founder, I believe, Tobias or Toby, whatever his name is. Right. So like this is something I want to be long. Maybe it gets to 100 and then goes sideways for a while, whatever, don't care. Right. So it really depends on when you bought and what you were trying to accomplish from it. And so for Nick, he's trading. So when it gets to that range, it's most likely going to chop for a while. So that now becomes dead money for him, where he can use that to trade somewhere else, right? Grab that money. Let's say it's 100 shares. So that's $10,000. That's $10,000 he can now allocate to something for another trade, which will give him maybe another, 50% run or a 60% run. So it really depends on the person you're talking to here too, right? This would be for his measured move. He's not a long-term investor. I know Nick, you were trying to be, but I don't think that's your MO. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Right. So like, I think my overall average on shop is because I started buying in like the 580s before it split. It's probably I don't even know what my average is, so I won't. But when I was buying, I was not like I was going to flip this in 6 months. I'm buying because I want to be long this for their journey. Because so far they have proven that they're, yes, overvalued for a long time, but they have proven that they kind of know what their customers want and they can adapt and adjust as they need to. Right? They went profitable last quarter. That's huge.
Yeah.
Our friend Warren Wacky Louie, he wanted to bring to our attention that PayPal just got back above long-term resistance. I don't disagree with you. I could even draw it as a bit of a breakout on a couple different ways to look at it.
Yeah,
But
unless it takes
I
out
think
some
if I'm comparing this to Square, which is what we were really doing, I still think Square has a better setup currently. That doesn't mean PayPal can't eventually catch up. Agreed.
So
Yeah.
for the earnings breakdown for PayPal was the high of that day is 76.38. That's the level I would right now. To me, that could be a capitulation bar. Finally, like everyone's been thrown out the baby with the bathwater kind of bar.
So GP's got to see higher and a closing basis of 76.38, or he's going to be your wet blanket.
Yeah, to me, I look at this chart and the square doesn't look like a bear flag to me. PayPal looks like it's coming back into the breakdown candle and it's on lower volume. So, and it's required a lot of like relative strength energy to even just get back here. It could continue going, but I will go back to the same conversation that we've had for months. There's much better shit out there.
Yeah. I'd much rather be buying a stock, going that I either think is going to be breaking into all-time highs or like a target back at all-time highs or pushing into all-time highs. That's generally the pivot that I want to play against.
Like if you're comparing the space, fintech is what it is, right? Essentially, PayPal.
Yeah. Yeah.
How's SoFi doing versus PayPal and Square?
SoFi's killing it.
I mean, you're up
Point exactly, right? So
100%. Yeah. Right.
there's a reason these names are laggards. I don't know the reason, but they're lagging.
Yeah.
Yes, can they be catch-up plays? But just let's take the SMH world. If you have traded everything, NVIDIA's had a monster move all year, right? All you need to be is long NVIDIA, and it's done really well. The other names, some of them done well, some of them have done, but nothing like NVIDIA. So yes, you can play catch up, but if Big Brother's doing 180% for the year and the little brother's only doing 60, 70%, it's something to kind of pay attention to. So to me, PayPal and Square, like I own shares of Square. I'm a frustrated shareholder of Square, have been for for quite some time, and it's bags that I'm holding in Square. So maybe it's just the anger talking, but
You're not holding me, baby.
anytime, bags, anytime.
We only got a few minutes left. I want to talk about Asana, a name that I really like. I have been pounding my fist on the table over and over and over. I think the time is coming for our lovely Dustin Moskovitz. Asana looks delicious to me. I mean,
Asana does look great.
You guys tell me if I'm wrong. I'm open to critical feedback, but I think this looks like it is ready to just rip.
I don't know about that wet blanket comment though. I don't know if I can take too many of those, man. It's hurting my feelings.
Yeah, it looks like a big kind of inverse head and shoulders on the weekly.
It looks good.
Yeah.
I would love for it to take out 30, to be honest. And then once it takes out 30, it's game on.
It's on and popping then for sure.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the level I've been on. That's been on my radar, and yeah, that's still what, $6 higher. So that's still 20% higher from here. But I think it can still chop at the top of that range. So taking out the top of the range at 30, then starts the real kind of like, the wave threes we've seen, the relentless shallow pullbacks, kind of, that's the journey I want to be in, not catching bottoms.
All right, we're almost at time. Big finish. What I'm watching for this week, we kind of teased into it. It's going to surprise you both. We've talked about this already a lot this show, but I am really watching Tesla. I will be looking for trading positions in Tesla, maybe as soon as tomorrow. Really like it. I think AMD can be a catalyst for Tesla. I think the timing is right for us to see that Tesla pop post earnings. GP nailed it when he said there was no confirmation on that earnings bar. So that's really what I'm looking at for the rest of the week. Guys, one chart, two charts.
I'm watching for some continuation in both Goldman and JP Morgan, along with CLAC and LRCX. Those are kind of the four big ones that I'm watching.
This guy's going to have CLAC and LRCX on his
I like Datadog
one day.
Datadog, I think, looks amazing. Like, I really like that setup on the daily.
Pratt is my witness. I called the bottom of Datadog, but I didn't buy. I'm so sad that I didn't buy.
Arista Networks will be kind of top of the list too. They reported tonight. They're trading in all-time highs after hours, which was kind of another one of. I was actually meant to bring that up. It didn't hold its 50-day, but this is like another example of where we're seeing like price kind of slash that 50-day. In this case, it traded down to 150 and basically held that gap low. It also has kind of a rising trend line, and it held a 200-day too, and then it's like ripping into all-time highs. So just something I've been noticing. Oh, and Wayfair, sorry. Wayfair is another one.
Yeah,
I'm looking for some
Wayfair's a name
follow
we
through.
brought up several times. GP first brought
Yeah.
it up, I think, a couple weeks ago.
Like if we're in some like, you got to think that if dips are going to be shallow and tight, like I love these kind of setups like Goldman and even like Wayfair had a pretty tight kind of channel up there between 74 and I don't know 68, 69. But you're only getting like a week or two of it before we're continuing, so it's good stuff. Sorry, that's all I got.
GP?
Oh, crowd another. Sorry, crowd. Crowd, one more.
I
Sorry,
said
that's another
one or
one.
two, and he's
Yeah,
giving
I
us
know, I
everything
know.
that's in the watch list.
Shit, not well. No, we could go for another couple hours if you want to go on that whole
Yeah, we
list.
can. So, for me, coin, that looks explosive.
Phenomenal.
Yeah,
Sensational.
If you don't like coin and you want to be long kind of old man stocks, Home Depot.
You know, I really like Lowe's, but Home
I
Depot
do too.
looks great.
Same, right? Similar kind of
Yeah.
in different
Yep.
points. FDX, FedEx looks
Transports.
phenomenal. It's
Just
breaking
look
through
at the
that pivot.
transport. Sorry, GP. Just look at the transports. Just look
Yeah,
at the
no
freaking
doubt.
transport. Dow theory, right? Sorry, back to FDX.
FDX looks phenomenal, right? It's busting through that pivot like it's not even a thing. Right? You would have imagined that 267 would be a problem, but nope, going right through it, right? Broke through yesterday and now staying above it. So we'll see how this finishes the week, but this looks good. We can go through a lot of them, but MDB, we talked about already. Monster. It's just setting up.
Sensational.
And you know what Verizon looks like? It had its capitulation moment. And now it looks good. I think I was going to buy in trend.
Well, good is a relative term.
I know, but it looks as good as PayPal.
Wacky Louie over here catching strays on a Verizon chart.
So yeah, it's not just the 7 stocks, right? That's my whole point here, right? By talking about Home Depot and FedEx and looking at these charts. Dude, look at ROST. We've talked about this a few times
So basically, do not sell. No matter what kind of shit sandwich stock you own right now, don't sell is what you're saying.
Right? Like ROST, this is a clothing line. It looks like it's ready to go. Like, and this can all fail miserably tomorrow. I'm not saying that's not possible. I get it, right? Even shitty ass Micron is starting to look better, right? It's still lagging all its peers, but that's looking better. Costco looks great.
Yeah, Costco. We
list
can't
can
say
go
enough
on.
about Costco.
The list can go on. Look at FICO. FICO.
FICO.
I know my FICO is higher than it's ever been.
It got added to the S&P. What has it been doing all year? While you guys talk about, not you guys, but while everyone talks about 7 stocks, this is an S&P 500 stock. Not a single person talks about this. I don't even get one like on the charts I posted on this chart.
So normally, like this,
that's so funny.
I know we're going over a little bit, but I think this is important to bring up. Normally, this time of year, into the summer, heading into the fall, is like seasonality, one of the worst times to own. And I kind of feel like, the old axiom, sell in May and go away, but it's really sell in mid-July and go away.
Yeah.
Do we feel like that has been trained and programmed in people's mind has everybody really running with the itchy trigger finger to sell and get out? Because I agree with you guys. Like everything tells me, everything that I'm seeing is there's probably going to be shallow pullbacks. Just buy the dip.
Yeah, I think they'll regret it.
Buying the dips or selling the rips?
I think they'll regret selling.
Yeah. Dude, look at GitLab. I can go on and on about names, right?
Yeah, there's not enough. I'm continually in a state of I don't have enough money to put to work.
Randy does. He said he's buying every damn thing.
Just yeah. There you go, Randy.
Dude,
Just buy
so
them.
another Kathy name, Pack B.
Yeah. Yep. Oh yeah. I like Pack B.
Look at where all the price action has been in Pack B. Monster volume bar, and then literally, I think 75% of the action has been sitting in the top part of that wick. When that wick goes, Pack B belongs on your list of this name is ready to move out, right? So if you want to call it the stage 2 breakout, whatever it's called, but this is something you should have on your list. This is also a Kathy name.
Speaking
even-
of, I mean,
even
XBI.
Snap-
Well,
Even Snap shook the boat and has done better.
Forget your Skechers. I'm a Crocs kind of guy. Sorry there, Randy. Man,
all right,
yeah,
we're
I don't-
over. We're over. I want to be respectful of time.
Sure.
Guys, appreciate you as always. Appreciate everyone who tuned in tonight. We had 20 some people watching. We love it. Thank you. But as always, we're going to ask you to subscribe and like and tell a friend to tell a friend. We do this all the time. We wet blanket bags. That's right. That's right, Nick. See, I'm watching the chat. I have to multitask. I have to produce this show. I see all the things happening. Anyway, we appreciate everyone, but we got to go. Tell a friend. We'll be back next Monday again, probably 9 p.m. We'll get back to 8 p.m. sometime, but 9 p.m. for now. Just thanks, guys. Appreciate you as always. Thanks everyone for tuning in.